Two guys are standing on a grassy hill and looking at the wide open spaces. A guy with brown hair is holding a shovel, and a guy with white hair is holding a flag. Four weird little animals are sitting at their feet. The white flag with symbols is fluttering in the wind. The brunette is happy and smiles and looks into the distance, while his friend is calm. The little animals are charged with energy. The brunette mentally greets the viewer and says that his name is Kim Soo-ho. The little animals are shouting out sounds one by one. The hero corrects himself and says that here his name is Lloyd. The hero swings his shovel with a smile and says that here. The hero plunges the shovel into the ground. The ground under the hero's feet begins to glow and a large blue circle appears under him, lined with a checkered pattern. The circle begins to expand and all the surroundings around the heroes turn into a blue checkered field. A model of skyscrapers begins to appear above the ground from glowing lines. The hero says that this is the story of an ordinary civil engineer. The vast expanses begin to turn into a model of a city with skyscrapers. The hero continues that this builder has completely changed the world. The hero looks at the model of the city spread out under the mountains. He addresses his partner by the name Xavier, to which Xavier calmly responds with the words, "Yes, Mr. Lloyd." Lloyd spreads his arms in a crazy smile and shouts that it is all money. Mr. Lloyd laughs loudly, to which Xavier asks if his master has gone crazy. A medieval town at night, several years ago. A notification appeared that the hero had chosen the absolute and that he could make a wish. A congratulation appeared. The guy lay on the ground dissatisfied and looked at the congratulations. The notification said that he had become one of the heroes of the novel The Knight of Iron and Blood. He recognized this novel because he read it yesterday. The hero was asked to try hard and wish good luck in the message. He did not understand what wish and what request were being discussed, did not understand why he was imagining it, because he was not even drunk. The hero opened his mouth in surprise. The thought came to him that perhaps this was a migration into a body from another world, which often appears in web novels. The hero assumed that he ended up in another world. The hero was lying in the middle of the road leading to the city. He did not understand why he woke up, having fallen to the ground. He convulsively got up and complained about the night cold. The guy's mouth shifted to the side and was cartoonishly small, which caused him reasonable surprise. A red notification bar appeared. It said that the mouth was crooked as a result of sleeping on the street. The guy slapped the notification window with displeasure, annoyed by his style of speaking. He adjusted his mouth and said that he had moved into the body of the hero of the novel, wondering who he had become in this novel. The hero called himself a man living in a village and sleeping on the road. Someone called out Mr. Lloyd and the guy turned thoughtfully. An unknown figure approached the surprised brunette. The man said that he had been looking for him for a long time. A golden sword guard peeked out from behind his belt. The man's hair was silver like the moon. A calm guy in a blue semblance of a uniform stood in front of the hero and asked him to return to the mansion. This was the main character of the novel, Xavier. The brunette broke out in a cold sweat. In his thoughts he noted that Xavier was the same as in the pictures of the novel. He noticed that he was addressed by the name of Lloyd. Xavier in a cloak and with a glowing sword. He was a sword master who, as the plot of the novel developed, became famous throughout the continent, but at the beginning of the novel he was only a knight guarding the Baron, whose eldest son's name was. The hero suddenly realized who he was and screamed, was he really that prankster Lloyd Frontera? Xavier looked calmly at the flushed boy. A slight surprise touched his face and he said that he did not call the boy a prankster, only called him by name. Xavier smiled slightly and said, well, that Lloyd correctly assessed himself. The notification reported that Xavier looked pleased, to which Lloyd mentally asked the notification to shut up. In front of the heroes was a large two-story mansion in the night. Xavier stirred the wood in the fireplace and asked the hero if he remembered how he ended up on the road. Lloyd sat wrapped in a warm blanket while Xavier explained to him that Lloyd had been drinking since dinner and broke all the dishes in the tavern, then got homesick and fell asleep on the way. In his mind, Lloyd noted that this was expected on the day of the prankster. Xavier continued to explain that the Baron was worried about his son and sent him away. He noted that even if the son was a prankster, the Baron would be sad if his son died on the street with a crooked mouth. Lloyd noted that Xavier spoke without any fear. Lloyd felt the floor and dreamed of a heated floor, but suddenly realized that he was in a medieval fantasy. Xavier turned around and told the hero to rest and said that he would report to the Baron about his tricks tomorrow morning, to which Lloyd asked not to tell and immediately received a negative answer. Xavier was impenetrable, like a wall. Xavier had already opened the door as Lloyd turned to him. The guy with a strange smile asked if they had much light at home. Xavier closed his eyes, surprised by the strange words. He slammed the door behind him without answering. The hero silently thought he knew the entire content of this novel. In his world, lying in a narrow room, finishing reading the last chapter on his phone, he knew the fate of his character. On the cold floor, the pale hands of the Baron and his wife lay on top of each other. The hero knew that at the very beginning of the novel they fell for vile swindlers, lost all their fortune and committed suicide. Lloyd was lying drunk on the table and asking to be served alcohol. After killing his parents, he began to beg and drink non-stop. Lloyd vomited blood and held his throat. Dropping the mug, he died. The guy threw off the blanket and screamed that even if he had become an aristocrat, his life was as worthless as in Korea. He mentally turned to the absolute, remembered the notification sign, tried to understand what it was up to. He did not understand why he had stuck it in this body. Morning came and the town under the mountains was illuminated by the sun. The white walls of the mansion shone in the sun. Xavier walked calmly behind the lady in the white dress, who was clarifying what Lloyd had done in the tavern last night. It was his mother named Marbella Frontera. Lloyd stood there shabby and realized that he had actually read a novel yesterday. An agitated Marbella asked her son to go and apologize to her. Lloyd did not let his mother finish and immediately agreed, guiltily scratching the back of his head. He understood that he was responsible for the pogrom that his body had committed yesterday. Marbella and even Xavier suddenly opened their eyes in surprise, which was noticed by the pop-up notification. The hero did not understand. Should he not be at least a little proud of him? The sky above the medieval houses was clear and calm. A man was putting bales of straw into a cart. Something caught his attention. Xavier and Lloyd were approaching him along the street along the barrels and windows. The frightened man immediately hid behind his cart, not even thinking to look in the direction of those walking. Lloyd looked at him questioningly. All the passers-by on the street shuddered and ran in different directions, only noticing Lloyd with his companion. The surprise on Lloyd's face only grew. The little boy looked at the walking couple with curiosity. Then he was pulled inside the house with the words that he must not look at him. The window sashes slammed shut. A pop-up notification informed the boy that the villagers hated him. He replied that he had already noticed it. Lloyd walked without taking his hands out of his pockets, asked why Xavier was following him. Xavier kept his hand on the hilt of his sword and said that the Baron ordered him to guard him and make sure that Lloyd did not repeat yesterday. The hero asked again in surprise, did he really need to guard him? Xavier calmly replied that it would be more accurate to protect the residents from him, to which the hero called himself a monster, not suspecting inside what he had done before. Lloyd looked around guiltily, realizing that he first needed to clean up his image so that at least someone would give him a piece of bread when he started begging. He mentally stopped himself, deciding that it would be better to somehow sort out his family debt first. He imagined himself bathing in huge honeycombs, realizing that in this case, as the successor to the owner of the village, he would be able to live in luxury for the rest of his life. Lloyd mentally asked if there were any cheats here. A blue window immediately appeared in front of him and he was surprised that there were skills here. Lloyd's skills on the table were such skills as worthlessness and drunkard. Dissatisfied, Lloyd tried to knock this table down with his hands, but Xavier, who saw nothing, looked at his master with embarrassment. Lloyd, struggling with the table, went ahead. Xavier called out to him and asked where he was going. Lloyd only turned to the white-haired man in confusion. There was a tavern on the side of the guys. Xavier stopped at the level of the door, looking at the guilty gentleman and pointed to the tavern, asking if the apology was really a lie. Lloyd began to deny it. Xavier fell silent in confusion. Indignant Lloyd began to shower him with questions. Xavier closed his eyes and invited the gentleman to come in. Lloyd slowly opened the door, looked inside with an apology, to which Xavier, standing behind him, could not find words. He looked at the gentleman calmly, but internally he understood that something was wrong with him since yesterday, as if he had become a different person. In the tavern, all the furniture was broken. Cracks were crawling along the wall, the trophy skulls were half broken. Lloyd fell heavily onto a chair and loudly declared that he wanted to apologize for his pranks. Xavier watched in surprise. The bald owner of the tavern took a fighting stance, which was noted by the blue notification window. Lloyd looked at the owner of the tavern, bewildered, as he stuttered and asked the gentleman to stop. The hero thought that perhaps this happened because such a non-entity as he suddenly began to speak respectfully. Lloyd looked away, deciding to change his strategy, briefly and rudely asked for forgiveness. The notification plate noted the inappropriate behavior of the apologetic man. The hero still could not understand what it required of him. The bald man, covered in sweat, bowed and stuttered that everything was fine and that the hero did not need to apologize. Lloyd remained silent in surprise, but looked at the owner of the tavern. The sky was clear and bright. Xavier and Lloyd crossed a small bridge. The hero noted with difficulty that the innkeeper's face, even after the apology, was not very good. Xavier noted that this was not surprising. He looked at the guy and said that all the utensils and dishes that he had broken were bought with money earned with sweat and blood, and that perhaps only by receiving compensation would the innkeeper be satisfied. Lloyd was indignant, thinking that there were only debts at home and there could be no talk of compensation. He still could not admit that he could not look good in the eyes of the residents. The hero understood that if he did not sort out the debts, then nothing would work out, but he did not understand how to do this. Xavier continued the story, throwing the hero off track even more, saying that in addition to the pogrom, the health of the inn's mother left much to be desired. Lloyd looked away, remembering the only fireplace in the inn and how cold it was there. The boys walked on the bare ground, while Lloyd continued to think about how hard it would be for old people to